No, your dog isn't manipulating you when they stare at their empty bowl with those heartbreaking, soulful eyes. Biologically, their body is screaming that it is completely empty. And the standard advice to simply cut back their kibble is actively harming their metabolism while starving them of essential nutrients. Let's strip away the myths and look at the hard, cold reality of canine physiology. My name is Katja Berger, and as a practicing veterinary expert, I see this exact scene play out in my examination room every single day. Loving pet parents look at me with terrence. Look at me with tears in their eyes, completely consumed by guilt, feeling like they have to choose between their dog's happiness and their physical health. You've probably been told by your vet that your dog needs to shed a few pounds. So, like a responsible owner, you did what seemed logical. You reduced the amount of dry food you scoop into their bowl. But now, your best friend acts like they haven't been fed in a week. They whine, they lick their lips, and they follow you around the kitchen, begging for just a single scrap of cheese. It feels like torture. But what if I told you that the traditional method of pet dieting is completely fundamentally flawed? What if I told you that you never have to make your dog suffer through hunger pangs again to get them down to a healthy weight? There is a precise, scientifically proven veterinary methodology that allows your dog to eat a massive, completely full bowl of food every single day while systematically melting away their dangerous belly fat. We are completely upending the traditional approach to canine weight loss today. What everyone fails to tell you is that a dog's stomach doesn't count calories, it counts volume. When you cut their calorie-dense kibble in half, you are leaving their stomach physically empty, meaning their internal biology never triggers the chemical signals required to tell their brain that they are full. They are quite literally in a state of constant low-grade distress. This isn't just about making them feel better. This directly dictates their cellular health, their joint longevity, and their overall lifespan. We are setting a brand new standard for how you manage your dog's nutrition. By understanding the exact biomechanics of canine metabolism, you can completely eliminate the begging, eliminate the guilt, and safely strip away the excess weight that is quietly stealing years from your dog's life. No fluff, no pseudoscientific internet trends, just pure, undeniable biological facts and actionable veterinary strategies that work at the cellular level. To truly fix this problem, we must first look at what happens inside your dog's body when they carry even a slight amount of excess weight. In veterinary medicine, we do not just rely on the arbitrary number on a digital scale. Instead, we evaluate your dog using a precise diagnostic framework known as the Body Condition Score, or BCS. This is a standardized clinical scale ranging from 1 to 9. A score of 1 indicates a dangerously emaciated, malnourished animal. A score of 9 represents morbidly obese status, the biological sweet spot, where your dog's organs function at peak metabolic efficiency, is strictly a 4 or a 5. You can perform a definitive clinical assessment right now using the knuckle test. Stand over your dog and place both of your hands flat against the sides of their thoracic rib cage, just behind their front shoulder blades. Without applying downward pressure, slide your palms back and forth. If the ribs feel sharp, prominent, and completely devoid of tissue, mimicking the hard knuckles of a clenched fist, your dog is dangerously underweight. If you open your hand flat and run your fingers across the knuckles on the back of your hand, you will notice the bones are easily palpable, but covered by a smooth, thin layer of skin. This represents a perfect BCS score of 5. However, if you turn your hand over and press against the thick, fleshy, muscular pad at the base of your thumb, noting how hard you have to press to find the underlying bone structure, you are experiencing what an overweight dog feels like. If your dog's rib cage feels like a dense, squishy mattress, they are clinically overweight or obese. The statistics surrounding this epidemic are staggering. Clinical data confirms that over 50% of the canine population entering veterinary clinics worldwide is classified as overweight or obese. Most owners completely ignore the initial, seemingly innocent warning signs. You might notice your dog panting heavily after walking up a single flight of stairs, taking slightly longer to rise from their orthopedic bed in the morning, or showing a reluctance to jump into the back of your car. You think, they are just getting older, or it's just extra fluffy fur. This is a catastrophic misconception. Let's break down the true physiological math. To a human being, gaining 5 pounds feels completely negligible. It's just the result of a heavy holiday weekend. But if you own a smaller breed, such as a French bulldog, a pug, or a Shih Tzu weighing roughly 15 pounds, a 3-pound weight gain represents a massive 20% increase in total body mass. If a 150-pound adult human suddenly gained 20% of their body weight, they would be carrying an extra 30 pounds of pure adipose tissue strapped to their torso and limbs every single second of the day. What is actually happening beneath the skin while you ignore these subtle changes? Adipose tissue is not just inert, passive insulation. Science has proven that fat is a highly active, pathogenic endocrine organ. It actively synthesizes and secretes a continuous stream of pro-inflammatory proteins called cytokines, specifically tumor necrosis factor alpha and interleukin-6, directly into your dog's vascular system. This triggers a state of chronic, low-grade, systemic inflammation that quietly wreaks havoc on 3 specific internal pathways. First, consider joint destruction. Every single time an overweight dog jumps off a couch, runs after a ball, or descends a staircase, gravity forces that excess mass directly down onto the delicate articular cartilage of their stifles and hocks. This constant mechanical overload accelerates the degradation of the joint matrix, leading to agonizing osteoarthritis. More critically, it is the absolute leading cause of cranial cruciate ligament tears, the canine equivalent of an ACL rupture. This structural failure requires invasive, multi-thousand-dollar orthopedic surgery to repair and leaves the dog with permanent, irreversible joint instability. Second, the body faces severe oxygen starvation. Visceral fat doesn't just sit beneath the skin. It physically expands inside the abdominal and thoracic cavities, wrapping itself tightly around the heart, lungs, and trachea. When your dog attempts to take a breath, the lungs cannot fully expand because they are mechanically compressed by dense fat deposits. This forces the diaphragm to work twice as hard, leading to the chronic, ragged panting you see even in mild temperatures. Your dog is quite literally fighting for oxygen. Third, this systemic inflammation alters cellular signaling, creating a biological environment that directly triggers canine diabetes mellitus and fuels the proliferation of neoplastic cancer cells. A landmark 14-year-long longitudinal study tracked 2 distinct groups of identical dogs. The first group was fed ad libitum, allowing them to become slightly overweight, while the second group was kept strictly at a lean BCS score of 4 through controlled portioning. The results were undeniable. The lean dogs lived an average of 2 full years longer than the overweight group. 2 extra years of life, free from chronic pain and metabolic disease, completely stripped away simply because of unmanaged caloric intake. Your dog cannot open the refrigerator. They cannot make choices about their diet. Every extra kibble passed under the table out of guilt is a biological transaction that trading their future lifespan for temporary satisfaction. we must look closely at the structural design of the canine digestive system to understand why traditional store-bought diet foods and popular online advice fail so miserably. When owners notice their dog is gaining weight, their immediate instinct is to visit the pet store and buy a bag labeled weight management or light. They read the marketing claims promising a slim waistline and believe they are fixing the problem. This is where 99% of pet parents make a critical everyday error that completely derails their dog's metabolism. Let's break down the hidden formulation strategy of commercial low-calorie kibbles. To lower the calorie count per cup, manufacturers significantly reduce the fat content. However, to maintain the physical structure of the kibble and keep production costs low, they replace that fat with cheap, highly processed carbohydrate fillers, refined starches, and indigestible cellulose plant fibers. When your dog consumes these high-carbohydrate diet foods, it triggers a rapid spikes in their blood glucose levels. In response, the pancreas is forced to secrete massive amounts of insulin, the primary hormone responsible for fat storage. High circulating insulin levels lock the body's adipose tissue, making it biochemically impossible for the cells to release stored fatty acids for energy. Your dog's body is effectively trapped in a cycle of fat retention, all while their cellular energy plummets. Furthermore, consider the severe biological consequence of simply cutting your dog's standard kibble portion in half. Commercial dog foods are mathematically formulated based on a specific volume of food to meet the minimum nutrient profiles established by the Association of American Feed Control Officials. When you suddenly slash that volume by 30% or 50% to force weight loss, you are not just cutting calories. You are drastically cutting their daily intake of essential vitamins, chelated minerals, omega-3 fatty acids, and crucial amino acids like taurine and L-carnitine. Over time, this induces a state of subclinical nutrient deficiency. The body perceives this sudden drop in nutrients and volume as a famine, triggering a survival mechanism that downregulates thyroid hormone production, slows down the basal metabolic rate, and aggressively preserves fat stores. This brings us to the core biomechanical reason why your dog whines and begs at their bowl. Inside the muscular walls of the canine stomach lies a complex network of mechanoreceptors known as stretch receptors. These specialized nerve endings are completely blind to calories. They only register physical expansion and volume. When a wild canine consumes a prey animal, the stomach stretches significantly, sending an immediate neural signal via the vagus nerve directly to the satiety center in the hypothalamus of the brain. This signal halts the secretion of ghrelin, the hunger hormone, and induces a state of deep physical satisfaction. Standard dry dog kibble is incredibly dense and dehydrated. All moisture has been industrially removed. A portion containing 300 calories occupies a very small physical footprint inside the stomach. When you reduce that portion further for a diet, the tiny pile of food barely coats the bottom of the stomach lining. The stretch receptors are never activated. The vagus nerve remains silent. The brain continues to pump out ghrelin, leaving your dog in a state of genuine biological hunger distress. They are not trying to manipulate you with their eyes. Their nervous system is genuinely screaming that they are empty. Another massive layer of failure is what I call the kitchen sabotage trap, driven by the complete misunderstanding of treat metrics. Owners often think, it's just a tiny piece of cheese, or it's just one spoonful of peanut butter. This projection of human dietary math onto a canine body is a major oversight. Let's look at the actual numbers. A single slice of standard cheddar cheese contains roughly 70 to 80 calories. A single rounded tablespoon of peanut butter packs over 95 calories. For a medium-sized size, 20-pound dog whose daily caloric requirement sits right around 450 to 500 calories, that 1 tablespoon of peanut butter represents nearly 20% of their entire daily allowance. Handing that to a small dog is the physiological equivalent of a human eating a double bacon cheeseburger as a mid-afternoon snack every day, completely canceling out any caloric deficit created at mealtime. The body cannot cheat thermodynamics. If the total caloric input exceeds the metabolic output, the excess energy is systematically converted into triglycerides and locked away inside the expanding walls of the visceral fat pads. We are going to completely fix this problem tonight by utilizing the scientifically grounded methodology of volumetric nutrition. Instead of starving your dog, we are going to use the exact biology of their stretch receptors to trick their brain into a state of total satiety while keeping them in a steady caloric deficit. To do this, we must first fix the tool you use to serve their food. If you are using an old coffee mug or a plastic cup to scoop food, you are creating massive dosing errors. Throw it away. You must use a standard, leveled baking measuring cup, or better yet, a digital kitchen scale to measure their kibble in grams. Next, look at the feeding chart on the back of your food bag, but completely disregard their current weight. You must calculate the food portion based exclusively on your dog's ideal target weight. If your dog currently weighs 45 pounds, but clinically needs to be 35 pounds, you look strictly at the 35-pound guideline. Furthermore, because commercial food bags calculate portions for highly active, intact working dogs, you must reduce that baseline number by another 20% if your dog is spayed or neutered and lives a standard indoor life to prevent the nutritional deficiencies and end hunger caused by this reduction. We deploy the veterinary green bean and pumpkin protocol. Go to the grocery store and purchase plain, frozen, cut green beans with zero added sodium, garlic, or onions. Green beans are roughly 90% water and packed with indigestible cellulose fiber. Take 15% of your dog's calculated kibble volume out of the bowl and replace it with a massive, warm handful of thawed green beans. If your dog rejects green beans, use 100% pure canned pumpkin puree, ensuring it is not pumpkin pie mix, which contains toxic nutmeg and sugar. Let's look at the exact molecular magic of this swap. That giant handful of green beans adds fewer than 15 calories to the bowl, yet it triples the physical volume of the meal. When your dog consumes this fiber-dense feast, the massive volume physically expands the stomach walls, instantly activating the mechanoreceptors. The vagus nerve fires. The brain shuts down ghrelin production. And your dog walks away, completely satisfied with zero biological awareness that they just consumed a low-calorie meal. We must also eliminate the kitchen sabotage by strictly managing the daily treat budget through the counter jar method. Every morning, place your dog's total allowed treats for the day into a single glass jar on the counter. If family members want to reward the dog, they must take it exclusively from this jar. Once the jar is empty, the budget is spent. Swap out high-calorie biscuits and toxic tableside cheese for frozen blueberries, raw cucumber slices, or small pieces of crisp apple. A frozen blueberry provides a satisfying, crunchy, tactile experience and delivers beneficial antioxidants, yet it carries virtually zero fat and only about 1 calorie. For interactive toys like Kongs, stop using high-fat peanut butter. Instead, mix plain, fat-free, xylitol-free Greek yogurt with pure pumpkin puree, stuff the toy, and freeze it overnight. This CS provides an hour of rewarding mental stimulation and healthy probiotics for a fraction of the calories. To maximize fat loss, we must couple this volumetric diet with movement with a mission. Standard casual walks, where your dog stops to sniff every mailbox, do not elevate the heart rate enough to initiate lipolysis, which is the metabolic process of breaking down fat cells. You must dedicate 15 to 20 minutes daily to a continuous, brisk power walk where the dog is kept at a steady trot. However, do not ever force an obese dog to sprint, jump, or chase a tennis ball intensely. The kinetic force of a heavy body crashing down on concrete will instantly snap their cranial cruciate ligament. For low-impact exercise, swimming is the absolute holy grail because the water completely supports the skeletal system while providing excellent cardiovascular resistance. If swimming isn't an option, use olfactory enrichment inside the house. Hide small portions of their measured food inside an upside-down muffin tin, or scatter it across the living room rug. Forcing a dog to actively search and sniff for 20 minutes triggers an intense cognitive workload that burns a high volume of mental calories, fatiguing their central nervous system and preventing boredom-induced begging without placing a single ounce of pressure on their joints. Finally, keep a close watch for medical red flags. If you follow this exact volumetric protocol for 4 consecutive weeks and the scale does not budge, the weight gain is not your fault. You must contact your veterinarian for a diagnostics blood panel to check for hypothyroidism or Cushing's disease. An underactive thyroid completely shuts down the metabolic engine, making weight loss physically impossible until it is corrected with a daily, low-cost synthetic hormone tablet. True, safe weight loss must be a gradual process, targeting a loss of no more than 1% to 2% of their total body weight per week. Start tomorrow morning by removing just 10% of their kibble and mixing in that first handful of warm green beans. By transitioning slowly and using the power of biology instead of deprivation, you are not punishing your best friend. You are systematically relieving the painful pressure on their joints, protecting their internal organs, and physically buying them up to 2 extra years of vibrant, happy life by your side. You now possess the definitive clinical roadmap to save your dog's life. 00. If this evidence-based guide has given you the clarity and confidence to protect your best friend, please show your support by hitting that like button right now to help this vital information reach other pet parents who are struggling with guilt. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss our deep dive veterinary strategies. And leave a comment below telling me exactly what breed of dog you are helping and which healthy vegetable you are putting into their bowl tomorrow morning. Let's build a dedicated community of educated pet owners right here. Give your beautiful dog a gentle, loving belly rub for me tonight. Stay consistent. Trust the hard science.